Cats Hi, it's me. Number 11. The Lost Colony of Roanoke. In 1585, England sent out a group of about 120 colonists to settle on Roanoke Island off the coast of what is now North Carolina. They were the first English attempt at colonization in North America. But within 2 years, they were pretty much all dead. Disease, famine, and conflict with the Native Americans took a heavy toll on the colony. By the time an English supply ship arrived in 1587 with more colonists and supplies, only one man was left alive from the original group. The new group of settlers fared no better. Within months, half of them were dead, and when the supply ship returned the following year, it found the entire colony gone. More than 100 men, women, and children had vanished without a trace. The only clue left behind was a single word carved into a post CROATOAN. To this day, their fate remains unknown. It's one of America's oldest mysteries, and it's inspired countless books, TV shows, and movies over the years. But before we dive into some of the more popular theories, let me answer some basic questions. Where exactly is CROATOAN? Well, if you're standing on the southernmost tip of the Outer Banks of North Carolina, facing south across the channel, you should be able to see it on a clear day. That's right, CROATOAN is actually a real place. It's just not very big. We're talking less than a quarter square mile, a couple of small sandy beaches, and a whole lot of nothing. Who were the CROATOAN people? Well, they were a Native American tribe that lived on the island of CROATOAN and possibly other nearby islands as well. When the English began exploring and settling in North Carolina in the late 16th century, the CROATOAN people were living on an island that the English called Roanoke. Eventually, the English would establish a fort on the island, and the CROATOAN people would move over to CROATOAN Island, which was much less developed by the English at the time. Now, back to the mystery. As I mentioned earlier, when the supply ship arrived in 1590, it found the entire colony gone. All that was left behind was a single word carved into a post-CROATOAN. Naturally, the English assumed that the colony had simply moved to CROATOAN Island and made camp with the local Native Americans. A few months later, an exploration ship arrived with orders to find the missing colonists. It sailed up and down the coast but found no sign of the colony. No trace of them has ever been found. So where did they go? There are a lot of theories. One popular theory is that the colonists were all killed and then eaten by the Native Americans. There's certainly reason to believe that this could have happened. The colonists had been living in a state of near constant conflict with the Native Americans for years, and there are reports of cannibalism among some of the tribes in the area. However, there are a few problems with this theory. First, if the colonists were killed and eaten by the Native Americans, why was the word CROATOAN carved into a post? There's no evidence that the English settlers knew the word CROATOAN before they disappeared. Second, if the Native Americans killed and ate the colonists, why didn't they kill and eat the explorer who arrived a few months later? He landed in the same area, sailed to the same places, and even interviewed the same Native Americans. But he wasn't attacked. It seems unlikely that the Native Americans would have shown such restraint. Another popular theory is that the colonists all died of disease or starvation. Again, there's reason to believe this could have happened. The colonists were already suffering from disease and starvation when the pesty supply ship arrived in 1587, and it's possible that things just got worse after they left the island. However, this theory doesn't explain why the explorer didn't find any signs of the colony a few months later. If they had died on CROATOAN Island, he would have found their graves, or at least their belongings. And that brings us back to the word CROATOAN. What does it all mean? Well, it could mean that the colonists simply moved to CROATOAN Island and made friends with the locals, but that seems unlikely. The English and the Croatoans had been fighting for years, and there's no evidence that the fighting had stopped. It's also possible that the word Croatoan was meant to be a clue, leading the English to believe that they had moved to CROATOAN Island, when in reality they had moved somewhere else entirely. But where and why? Unfortunately, we don't know the answers to these questions, but maybe one day we will. Thanks for watching.